Greg Russell, NBC Detroit. Hi, Steve. How are you?
Hey, Greg, nice to meet you. How are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Even though I was going to make the joke to you, I didn't get much sleep last night, only because I initially was going to watch part of the series last night, then part this morning. I binged watched the whole thing. I mean,
I love to hear that. It makes my day.
yeah, I mean, just you just draw everybody in, and especially when you get to the end of the episode, it's like, okay, the next one is only like 45 minutes, so that's
Right.
not bad. So
That's great. Like, I love to hear that. It means we did our job as writers. That's fantastic.
And speaking of which, I mean, just fantastic stories. It's the story of the group, but then also each individual has their own storyline as well.
Yeah. And that was a challenge of this year. Once the decision was made to sort of scatter them in time, I wanted to anchor them to sort of these real stories that their lives had just gone on, which, made it a whole new complication when they tried to come back together. I mean, Allison has a real life and these other characters have real lives. And it's a struggle to sort of just leave them behind when your family shows up, or at least you discover your family's still alive.
Right. And also, it takes place in an interesting time in our country's history,
Right.
especially the early 60s and then also November of 1963. And just fascinating just to see, how you work that into the story.
Yeah, it was such a tumultuous time. And, I made the decision, towards the end of season one that I knew that was the time period I wanted to go into. It was touched upon in the graphic novel. And I just thought it was a time of incredible paranoia in terms of, the communists and the government. It was an incredible time of sort of struggle for civil rights and as in the South. So it was just a great setting. And I didn't want to sort of glaze over any of those real issues. I wanted them to be real and really touched upon on the season.
Oh yeah, I mean it's really there. I mean, especially obviously one of the ones that really steps out for me is of course the lunch counter,
Mm.
scene, and the powers that the one young lady had. It was like, wow, you wish that was true,
Yeah.
where it could work that way.
Yeah, and it was such a moving night. I mean, it took us 2 days and nights to shoot that sequence, and it was really powerful for obviously Emmy in that scene and for the cast and crew. I mean, it was just amazing to think people were that brave and they went into these places and did that with such with such grace, and they stood there and with this honor and determination. It just was humbling to all of us.
Right, and also it's like every character, every actor, male and female who you had in was perfect for their role. It was not like anybody stuck out, like they shouldn't have been playing that. It was like these were all the right people for the right orders.
Well, I'm thrilled you say that. Casting is so tricky, especially when you do some period casting just to get it right. And we worked really hard to not only get the casting right, but to make the production value, to make it look like 1963 in Dallas. And most of it was shot actually in Ontario, Canada. The only thing we shot in Dallas was the grassy knoll. We got permission to shoot there for 2 days, and we went there, and it was very humbling even to be there for those 2 days.
I know I went to Dallas once and I went there as well. And like you said, it's just kind of a surreal thing when you're there.
Yes, it was totally surreal.
And, like we said, yes, 1963, but then they've got to get back to another certain era. And the one guy who was in charge of the cult, as he didn't like to have it called,
Yeah.
he was another fun one. I always liked it when he would come on because it would always be, okay, here's going to be that little bit of humor, but also that little bit of sense too.
Yeah, no, Klaus is just a wonderful character, and he's sort of taking advantage of knowing the future, and sort of manipulated these people, but in a sweet Klausian way, which is it's never meant to be. He's never that much. He's not an evil character. He means well in his own weird way.
Right. And for people who like action and adventure, they're really going to enjoy this. I mean, the fight scene at the end, basically, of episode 10. Wow.
Yeah, that took a lot of work. It's like a little mini movie in itself, but it keeps you on the edge of your seat from the minute that episode starts to the minute it ends. You just think it's over, and it keeps going.
And I think I'm going to wind up doing what I know some other people have. I didn't see the first season. So now I'm going to go and watch that. Probably once again, all in one night. So,
Oh, that's great. Grab some popcorn and sit back.
for sure. Well, Steve, thank you so much for your time. Really enjoyed it and look forward to seeing even more.
Thanks, Greg. Lovely talking to you.
Same with you. Take care.
Take care.